my food career kind of started about 5 years ago when I got on to MasterChef on Fox. And then I kind of built a career of doing a lot of private dining and small scale catering type stuff. But like I said, I never thought about doing a restaurant. I had a lot of friends in the restaurant business. I did a podcast for a while, talking to a lot of restaurant professionals in town, and I was just like, man, restaurant stuff is hard. Like, that is not something I want to do. And then this opportunity came along when they were building the summit out here, and they had the idea of doing a food hall. And they wanted very specific types of food in here, and they didn't have anybody for Asian or noodle concept. And so they approached me after a couple of restaurant friends of mine recommended me. So yeah, that's when the idea of Atomic Ramen didn't even occur to me until that moment. And then I started developing it, thinking about it as a brand. And for me, I knew I wanted to do ramen and sort of casual dining, Japanese, Asian influence, comfort food. And then when I started thinking about the brand and the concept and the aesthetics, I was just tapping into who I am as a person. I'm a big superhero, comic book, sci-fi fantasy geek. So I brought all of that into the brand.
Very cool. So, had you grown up cooking Asian food? I mean, was that a cultural thing for you? Were you?
I certainly grew up eating Chinese food. That's what we ate at home with my parents. And then after college, I moved to San Francisco, lived there for about 4.5 years, and then lived in New York City for about 4 years. And that to me was kind of my culinary education. I've always cooked since I was a kid, but I didn't really get to really appreciate and learn about not just Asian food, but all kinds of food in those two of the best eating cities in America, what I mean? And in some ways, moving back to Lexington was the impetus for me to start cooking more, because if you live in a New York City or San Francisco, you don't have to cook ever. There's great food every day of the week. You'll never run out of restaurants in different price ranges. You can eat cheap, you can eat expensive. And then coming back to Lexington was a little bit of a cultural shock in that, I think we plowed through Lexington restaurants in a month, and we were like, now what? And it kind of did inspire me to start cooking more. And I cooked all kinds of stuff. I did a lot of barbecue and French food and continental, just all kinds of stuff. But more and more I started kind of returning to, in a way, my roots, like what I consider comfort food. And it wasn't just Chinese food, it was a lot of different kinds of Asian comfort food.
So when I think of American style comfort food, I think of burgers and fries and pizza. Tell us what would be an Asian comfort food? How would that be different?
You start with rice. Or noodles, that's kind of your base, and a lot of it, for me, comfort food is like unpretentious, very humble, like street food, home cuisine. It's not highfalutin, it's simple ingredients, it's some stewed meats, it's some quickly stir-fried vegetables, or some pickles. Pickles is huge with a lot of Asian cultures. You always have them on the table with your meals. It's just a great balance. And if you think about a lot of cultural traditions, they come from necessity, they come from scarcity. So pickles are a way that when you have cabbages, during the year and you want to get through the winter, that's where kimchi comes from. You know what I mean? You ferment the stuff, you put it in jars, you can store it away, and you have food for the entire winter. You know what I mean?
It's interesting because all the Chinese restaurants I've ever been into, I don't think there were some pickles on the table.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. When you think about Chinese food in America, what most people think of is honestly American Chinese food. When you're talking about Kung Pao chicken and General Tso's and sweet and sour pork, that sort of stuff, it's been very much adapted to an American palate. If you go to a more sort of regionally or Chinese sort of, I hate to use the word authentic, I have whole issues with that, but something less Americanized, you will definitely see stuff like that and all kinds of unusual stuff and cold dishes and things like that.
So regarding its Americanization, are we talking about more things deep fried, more things sugar barbecued, like Korean ribs and that kind of thing?
Korean ribs are pretty legit, but when I talk about, and I think Chinese food is the one that falls most into that category. Chinese food, of all the Asian cuisines in America, Chinese food's been around the longest. You go all the way back to the gold rush and to the building of the railroads in the mid-1800s, where you had this population of Chinese immigrants, mostly Chinese men, laborers. And once the gold rush died down and the railroads were completed, they were basically kind of kicked to the curb. Like there weren't jobs available to them. They weren't able to do a lot of the work. And this is back in the mid-1800s in the West, where there were very few women. So what kind of fell to them was what was considered women's work. So laundromats and restaurants. Those were the two things that they were able to do. And so they kind of adapted their cuisine from home to a more Americanized palate. So it was a little fattier, a little sweeter, big chunks of fried food eventually is how it evolved.
At Kyojuteru Kempo, we believe that everyone has the right to defend themselves and their loved ones. Violence can visit us despite age, race, or gender. Call us at Kyojuteru Kempo or check us out at kyojuteru.org. kyojuteru.org.
Hello, I'm Chip Sebastian. I am the co-host of Sebastian and Sierp. If you've been liking the shows, please click like down below. And if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, jump on over to YouTube, click subscribe, and you will get the most recent episodes of our show where we're interviewing all kinds of great and interesting people. So we're looking forward to a lot more shows. Stay tuned. It's rolling. Just begun.